Hello everyone, my name is Tom. Welcome back to Let's Talk with Tom, the show where I talk about anything in animation I feel like talking about. And today we gotta talk about Kipo and the Age of the Wonderbeasts, or whatever, how it's said. I don't know, the ofs and the ands and the... Sometimes you watch a show, and just immediately you can tell that it's special. And this is one of those occasions. Everyone who I've talked to who has seen this show thinks it's great, and even the world's strongest man, Martins Lises, is saying that it's one of his new favorite shows. And to speak for myself, I don't think that I've ever been able to connect to a story so quickly, especially since I saw bits and pieces of promotion for this ahead of time, and I was just kind of like, lukewarm on it. I was like, well, this looks like a show, maybe I'll check it out, maybe I won't. Kind of leaning towards the don't. But then, I got to shout MikeCatSU because he drew Kipo for his social media, and I was like, bro, I really like her design. And he was like, yeah, she's from that new Netflix show that's coming out, and I was like, well, guess I gotta check it out now. So what is this show, and why is it so special? I think a good place to start would be the world. The story takes place about 200 years in the future. We're post-apocalyptic. Humans have started to retreat into the underground burrows because the surface is too dangerous to live on, but there's still some humans straggling on the surface. And the surface is full of animals that have taken on human characteristics. And these are creatures called mutes, which have basically evolved to take on these structural things of human society and behavior. They lean more towards being cartoony animals that act like humans, which I kind of prefer because most anthropomorphic designs really creep me out. Probably because when I was like 6, I saw that one Full Metal Alchemist episode, you know the one. And ever since then, my nightmares have existed in the uncanny valley between human and animal. I'm also currently on the Chimera Ants arc of Hunter x Hunter, so yeah, there's a lot of that in there too. But yo, a big talking frog with a mustache? That's cool. He's funny. I like it, bro. I'm down with the frogs. I also just realized that they're called mutes because it's shorthand for mutants. Roast me down in the comments below. And there are a lot of questions about this world that still come up, like, for example, what did I write down? How many of these burrows underground are there? Are they common? How might they be different across different nations or cultures? Because this story is very clearly taking place in North America, probably around America, Canada, United States, that general area. So what would one of these burrows look like in Europe or Africa or Asia? Or maybe there were some civilizations that just got wiped out by whatever phenomenon is going on that caused all of this. There's a whole 200-year story that we do not know anything about still. Also, how common is it for humans to exist on the surface? Obviously, it's not super common, but we did have the main character go to the surface and with not that much time find 2 humans within pretty close proximity to each other. Like, is that a normal thing, or is that just a coincidence? Maybe there are other human cultures that live above ground, maybe out in, like, mountaintops or whatever. Maybe some of these questions have answers, maybe none of them do. All I know is if they aren't answered in what is planned, then they're probably not going to be considered, because that's how DreamWorks works. They usually get with Netflix, they get 52 episodes, and then they make those 52 episodes, and then that's what happens. That's why I always think it's crazy when people are like, oh, you know, like, Shira SJW show, it's a failure, they're gonna cancel it this next season. It's like, dude, they already made the entire show. Like, it's coming out. Like, it's, like, and the same thing is happening with this. On to the story. I didn't need to clap, but I did anyways. It follows Kipo, a 12-year-old girl who turns 13 about halfway through this season, and she lives in an underground burrow that was attacked by a megamute, which is basically what we've talked about, but just very big. So this was happening, and her dad just yeeted her into the sewers, and was like, go to the surface. And then she got to the surface, and she was freaking out, because if you were living underground in a world where humans retreated underground because the surface wasn't safe, you would be freaking out if you were on the surface too. So on the surface, she finds a mutated pig, and then adopts it as her own, and names it Mandu, who she then saves from a little girl who's trying to eat her, and that little girl is named Wolf. And Wolf has survived on the surface by herself, and she sees Kipo, and she's like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen for you, so I'ma keep an eye on you and help you get home. Then they meet a kid named Benson, who has survived on the surface as well, with the help of his guardian/companion, Dave, who is a weird cockroach lobster dude who just molts through his whole life cycle within a day and some change. And these two parties of Kipo, Mandu, and Wolf, and Benson and Dave, they clash a little bit first, you know. Dave and Benson rob them because it's the surface, and that's just how it be around these parts, and you gotta be prepared for that. But they end up teaming up, and then they end up sticking together because Benson realizes, being in this group, we actually have a purpose instead of just trying to survive. Very much doing my job for me, just being straight up like, whoa, bro, like, we have a sense of purpose. It's like, yeah, dude, that's usually an analysis I would make. So I end up just reciting the text, don't mind me. Just over here, just doing my job. Nobody asked me to, but I'm doing it. So the plot is basically these characters trying to help Kipo find her burrow, reunite with her father, and that's the story. And also, there's this, mute mob boss named Scarlemane. He's an orangutan, a primate of some sort. I'm not an expert on primates or monkeys. I don't want to just, say, oh, he's, a gorilla, because obviously that's not true. Or, he's a baboon, or I don't know, what. Okay, he's clearly not an orangutan. I don't know why I said that. I don't know biology. I know sharks. Bring back street sharks, and I'll actually know what I'm talking about. So yeah, there's Scarlemane. He controls, all the smaller factions of the mutes, like the frogs, the wolves, the whatevers. And he's like, yo, get me this girl, because she has a burrow. She can lead us to a burrow. We can get a bunch of humans, then we can put them in a zoo, and it can be payback for the fact that 200 years ago, humans kept us in zoos because they don't respect animals. The plot is pretty simple and straightforward, honestly. It's not super complicated. Most of the actual substance of the show comes from the smaller stories that the plot acts as a framing device for. And these smaller stories are more so exploring the world, the rules of the world, and the characters in the world, and their personal journeys. Kipo is very emotionally intelligent. She's also very smart because her dad's a scientist and he just knows a lot about the world. She in a lot of ways reminds me of Princess Nausicaa from Miyazaki's Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, in the fact that she approaches situations with a lot of empathy and patience, and trying to communicate with the opposition rather than trying to fight them. That way they can come to some sort of solution that is not based in violence. And we see pretty outright how that plays out in the episode of the Timbercats, where she's starting to communicate with them, be like, yo, what's up? Why y'all mad? And then they be like, yo, we mad because of this. And she's like, bro, I understand that. I can empathize with you. And they damn. But then her friends had spiked the pancakes they were serving them, so... But this personality trait in Kipo, I think, is why, over time, the team starts to bond and grow closer together as the story goes on. And a big point in the story where you can see this is the birthday episode, where it's Kipo's birthday, she turns 13, and then when she finds out that Wolf has no idea when her birthday is, she's like, hey, let's share birthdays. So the group splits up to find birthday gifts for each other, and I'm actually going to go a little bit out of order, because I think it's going to make more sense in the bigger picture. So Wolf, Mandu, and Dave go to find Kipo a gift for her birthday, and Wolf ends up kind of following the breadcrumbs and finding the trail and figuring out this puzzle of where is Kipo's dad, where's her burrow, and she finds a letter from Kipo's dad that very clearly says, here's how I get to the endgame. And while this was happening, Dave was molting through his senile old man stage, so he wasn't really lucid for this discovery. And Mandu is a pig, and she can't talk because she's a pig. So nobody could say anything when the team came back together, and Wolf gave Kipo a gift that was very much not the life-changing letter. Then the group goes through a near-death experience, making Wolf feel really guilty about the whole thing, so she comes clean and says, hey, I had this life-changing letter, I was keeping it from you, and she admits that it's because she has become attached to the group and she doesn't want them to get to their destination, go their separate ways, because she has formed a bond with these people and she doesn't want to be without them, which of course Kipo is sensitive to and she forgives her. And this was a big moment for Wolf's character, because up until this point we've seen very much so that Wolf does not want to be vulnerable to the people around her. She didn't want to be in a bigger group. She was like, being a loner is my thing. Being in a larger group leaves me vulnerable to the outside world. And then, next thing she knows, she finds herself being vulnerable to the people who are close to her, which is not something that she planned on doing, because she has past trauma and stuff where she trusted people and they betrayed her, sound foam. So now she finds it very difficult to trust people, but she is in an environment now where she feels safe and she feels like she should be trusting these people, but it's I don't know about this. She's apprehensive because she's been hurt before, and she doesn't want to get hurt again. And the same general idea continues to be a theme moving forward in both the overall story and also just the relationship between Kipo and Wolf, which I felt was very important to cover. But let's rewind to what I thought was a highlight of the show, coming back to that birthday episode. We've established like the group split up. Dave, Mandu, and Wolf went their own way, leaving Benson and Kipo to be on their own. And listen, I'm not really one for shipping, mostly probably because like that aspect of my life I don't really like to make public to people. If I'm seeing someone, I don't even tell my friends, bro. I'll tell like my best friend, but that's usually only like if I'm like deep in the feels or if I need advice. Other than that, I don't tell nobody because I'm like, yo, this is between me and that person, and that's it. So like shipping to me is like a weird foreign concept where I'm like, why are y'all so interested in some, like, I just don't understand it, you know? However, I know how to read social cues. I know when there's something going on, and even before this episode, I could kind of tell Kipo was kind of crushing on Benson. Just the visual cues and the way Kipo would look at him, and, you know, just things where if you've been there, you know what's going on. Which I like because if you're going to do something like romance, there needs to be a subtle build. There needs to be little seeds that you can plant so the audience can come to a conclusion on their own that, oh, this could potentially be a thing. Or even, not even potentially be a thing, but like, okay, clearly this character has some feelings towards this other character. So they go off on their own, and once they find Wolf's gift, Benson is like, hey, I'm gonna take you to this rat land, which is like an amusement park, but it's run by rats. And the idea here is Benson's like, I know it seems like the surface is just really chaotic and scary and awful. We got a bad rap, but let me show you why I love the surface, why I'm proud to be from the surface, and how it can actually be very beautiful at times. I understand because like I'm from Detroit and a lot of people are afraid of Detroit, but Detroit has some really awesome things. So it's like when people are not from around here and they come here, it's like you want to show them all the great things about this place. And then they do what most stories fail to do in these situations, and they had Kipo just straight up say like, yo, I think I got feelings for you. And she gets rejected, like straight up. Homie is like, oh, yeah, I do really like you. But she's like, oh, but like as a friend, right? And Benson's like, yeah, because I'm gay. And my heart was pulled in so many different directions. You know, on one hand, I've been in Kipo's shoes where I like expressed to someone that I really like that I have feelings for them, and they're like, ooh, I don't really feel the same way. And you're like trying to like be like, oh, I mean, I respect that, but you're also dying inside because that's a normal human reaction to that situation. But I've also been in Benson's situation where, you know, I guess I'm just like a genuinely nice person, and I've had that misinterpreted as like, oh, you're acting this way and you're treating me this way, so that means you got feelings. Nah. That's just how we treat the homies. But also, yo, Benson, we stan. Especially since we do see a lot of representation for women loving women in animation. And I'm not saying that there's too much of that. I think there should be more. I think that there's plenty of room for more of that. But we don't see an equal amount of men loving men. So we want more of that. And we are seeing more of that here. And in the main cast, too. This is just so important. And they did it so naturally. It only came up because it was relevant to what was going on. And they create a whole character for Benson independent of this. And then he gets a crush on a dude later in this season, like, bro, we stand. Also the fact that if you're going to integrate romance into your show, because I get it, you have characters who are about this age, they're around each other, some feelings might come up. Regardless of that, the fandom is always going to be like, two characters, time to ship them. So in the narrative, it makes sense to just confront that. Whether it's going to be in the form of creating a relationship, just establishing, no, this isn't gonna happen. To confront that takes away so much of the complications. Also, it just completely avoids the will they, won't they trope, which I get it, it adds suspense, but I honestly think that it gives a lot of people some unrealistic expectations about relationships, because realistically, if you get into a relationship, someone's gonna ask someone out, they're either gonna say yes, and you build from there, or you say no, and you move on. Not a lot of relationships actually happen in real life through, I like this person, and I really hope they like me too, and I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to wait for something spectacular and unrealistic to happen that will make it so we just end up together without any initiative being taken, which that's not how the world works, but that's how things work in a lot of stories, so people think that's how the world works. Give us a representation for like the awkwardness of that. Give us all of that. Like, bro, I love that because we don't see a lot of that. We don't see a lot of that. Like, it's a part of life. So to see it being portrayed in a very realistic way instead of like this like fantastical, like unrealistic true love is real type of thing, it's really refreshing. And moments like this make the characters feel more human. Moments like Kipo expressing herself and then getting rejected. Benson finding the silver lining, and that says a lot about him, just like the type of person he is, that he can live in a surface where things are objectively bad, but he can still find things to make life worth living. And also Wolf working through her trauma and building new friendships that force her to confront some of the things about her trauma that she may have been avoiding, making her grow and develop as a person over time and learn how to take calculated risks, because the thing about having trauma like that is it makes you want to avoid the things that you intrinsically need in life. The basic human connections that you need because you're afraid, because you got hurt before, seeking that out, you just don't want to touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole, but you also, like, you need that stuff. You need that in your life to have a fulfilling existence. And that's what we're seeing Wolf learn through the story. And I think moving forward, because this season, we didn't really focus on Kipo's internal problems. Of course, there's, like, the whole thing of, like, okay, we gotta find her dad, the burrow, which they do, and then it lasts all of about 5 seconds, but again, that whole plot is just a framing device for the smaller stories. And I think that in the next season, we're going to see Kipo struggle a bit more for identity as she realizes things about herself. And I think that the whole message that we got in this first season where Kipo is going through and just being able to communicate with people and being like, hey, this seems like a really bad conflict where we can't work things out, but let's try and work things out, and then things would work out. And she kept getting told, like, hey, like, it's awesome that that works now, but eventually you're going to confront a situation where that's not going to work. And I think either in this next season or in a season down the line, again, DreamWorks be like that where they just order however many episodes they make them and then that's the show. So we're definitely getting more unless something crazy happens. I think down the line we're going to see that happen where she confronts a situation where that doesn't work and then she has to look inside herself to figure out, okay, how am I going to deal with this? I've been rambling for a very long time. I could probably go on for longer, but for now, I think that's about all I gotta say. So, roll the outro. Thank you so much for watching Let's Talk with Tom on the Roundtable. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a video. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like, and you can comment down below to give us your thoughts. Or you can find us at Roundtable Vids on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Or you can find me at TommyPQM on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram. And I even have my own personal channel, youtube.com/TommyPQM, where I don't upload very much, but when I do, it's stuff that I'm like really proud of and I think it's really cool. So definitely check that out if you're interested. And if you want to see more of the stuff that I do here on the Roundtable, definitely check out the Runaway Club, which is like my video essay series. And I do quick chats once a week where I talk about a specific topic in animation. If you want to go above and beyond to support the Roundtable, you can click the join button down below to become a channel member, or you can pledge to us on Patreon, link in the description. And you can even support us by checking out our Teespring, where you can get shirts like this and many more to rep us out in public. As always, my name is Tom. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time. See ya!